I'm with Julie Iles, the Surrey Police and Crime Commissioner candidate for the Conservative Party.
Hello, Paul.
Hello, and we just want to ask some questions about the position and all the rest of it. We've got some questions as well from local residents who have tweeted in this morning, so we'll just jump straight into it. Okay, so if you could explain what exactly is the job of the Police and Crime Commissioner?
Okay. The public of Surrey will go to the polls on November the 15th in the same way as they would for a parliamentary election or for a local council election. Across the whole of Surrey they will be electing one individual to stand as the Police and Crime Commissioner. That person will be responsible for holding the Chief Constable to account for delivery of policing services that map onto a police and crime plan that the Commissioner has developed in consultation with the public so that their views are represented, and the individual will also be responsible for negotiating the government grant that comes for those services and setting the council tax precept that fills the gap to maintain that service level.
Why should residents vote for you?
I've come at this not as a professional politician. I've come at this because I have the relevant experience for the job. So yes, I have been associated with the Conservative Party, but the reason I was selected by them is because I have 10 years experience as a magistrate. I sit on the South East Surrey bench. That gives me a genuine insight into the impact that crime has on people's lives and to criminal justice issues in the area. I've also worked with the Surrey Crime Stoppers Committee, so again I've got experience of impact of crime. And I think uniquely I've also got a business background. I've worked with information technology companies advising chief executives of key businesses in the UK as to how best to deliver effective resources that help their company and make the best of the money that they spend on it.
So what do you think you could offer that the other candidates can't?
Well, I've talked about my experience, my knowledge of criminal justice issues, the impact that crime has on people's lives, my business background, which I think will enable me to look at bringing effective, efficient policing using the best of our resources, which aren't limitless. More than that, I think at the moment we have a fairly anonymous police authority. They're not connected with the local people. People don't know how to represent what it is they need for their area. So I will bring a fresh approach to that. I'll be available to the people of Surrey so that they can set their priorities with me and so that I can hold the police to account for delivering on those priorities.
Now on your website you list a number of priorities. Now in Surrey Heath, thankfully, crime is quite low compared to other areas in the UK. However, antisocial behaviour in all of its forms, be it antisocial behaviour involving vehicles, youth disorder, or alcohol or nighttime economy related antisocial behaviour. Now you mentioned that tackling antisocial behaviour is a priority. Exactly how will you tackle it? Because I think that is going to be a key one for Surrey Heath.
And you're right, antisocial behaviour is the thing that affects people's lives. When it's serious crime, it's dealt with, but antisocial behaviour has been overlooked, and it covers a myriad of noise disturbances, young people congregating maybe where they shouldn't be, targeting vulnerable victims. What I want the police to do is to focus on it, simple as that. Let's not look the other way when there's a behaviour that needs to be challenged. Let's get on and challenge that behaviour. And I'll give you an example of it, Paul. I know that in Guildford there are residents who've been complaining about teenagers urinating in their gardens on their way home from the club. The police response to that was that middle class expectations were too high. That's not an acceptable response from our police. We need them to be challenging behaviour that isn't acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to that. In Surrey Heath, particularly in my community, we have members of the community that say they've rang the police to report antisocial behaviour, which they're encouraged to do, yet they don't get a response. Now, obviously, the police resources is not infinite, and if there's an old lady getting robbed somewhere else, obviously that's got to take priority. So how do you think that...
But there are different responses from the police. So somebody being robbed would be a targeted patrol response. Antisocial behaviour in all its forms is more of a neighbourhood policing issue. We've got new legislation coming through with the community triggers that mean repeat callers cannot be ignored anymore. On the wider nighttime economy, we can look at the restriction orders for stopping a licensed premises selling in the early hours of the morning. If they're not policing things properly, why should they be affecting residents in the area, people who are out to have a good time that night? So there are powers that are coming down the track to deal with that, and I will expect the police to be focused on it.
Okay, thank you. Now, this morning I put out on Twitter for local residents if they've got any questions they would like to ask you, so I'll read a couple of them out if that's okay. One resident from Mitchie has asked, what experience do you have with the police, in particular its inner workings?
Right. I've done my homework about this job. I have people who are helping me from the policy and the inner police working side of things, retired officers who were behind me in my campaign. I haven't worked for the police. I don't have an inside knowledge of it. I've been out with them for a day. I've been working with them and out with targeted patrol. I've looked at the custody suite. I've done all of that background checking. Actually, we've got a very good Chief Constable in Surrey. She's the one who's responsible for the inner workings of the police, and I will be dealing with her to make sure that the public's priorities are met. It's not me who's going to be micromanaging the police.
Right, okay, lovely. Now, another resident from Mitchie has asked about antisocial behaviour. Now, we've already covered that, but is there anything else you'd like to add?
Just that we know it's a real blight on people's lives. I am planning an action day that will address some of these things, because we haven't talked about things like fly tipping, graffiti, things that make an area look like it's not cared for, actually contribute to crime being committed in those areas. So I want people to join me on an action day to get involved and make Surrey a better place to live.
Now, another question we've had from a resident in Windlesham on Twitter. Do you agree with the policy to privatise certain elements of Surrey Police?
Okay, let's be very clear. There was a business partnership programme where West Midlands Police and Surrey Police were looking at partnering arrangements. They never called it privatisation, and I think it's a bit of political dogma to refer to it in those terms. In any event, it's been put on hold. It's not happening now. But I don't think you can simply say you will not privatise any aspect of the police. If it makes sense to contract out on catering, on estate management, on a back office function that means the taxpayers' money is better spent and frontline policing can be better supported, then I think it's incumbent to look at ways of doing that and not just rule it out of hand because of some political position.
Listen, Julie, thanks so much. Really appreciate your time. We're at Surrey Sports Park as well, which I think we should mention.
Fantastic.
Isn't it brilliant?
Yeah.
Isn't it brilliant? So, how can residents follow what's going on with your campaign?
I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, there's a website, julieiles.org.uk, all the contacts are there. Call me, get involved.
Yeah, so you want to hear from you. So that's an invite for residents to contact you and speak to you.
Yeah, there is no point saying I will set the residents' policing priorities if I don't know what they are, so get in touch.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.